Hello friends, welcome back to Curiosity Tube and welcome to the part 1 of series How to Blender. In this series I'm going to teach you how to navigate around Blender to how to becoming a pro in Blender. From car animations to plane animations, from creating cities to creating countries, everything. So let's get started. This is what you'll see when you'll open Blender for the very first time. This is a window you can see right here pops up, and it has a Blender icon here. It has the version you're using for me, that is 2.92, and this is an image created in Blender, and this swaps every new update. This one is by Joanna Kobierski, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and that's basically it. By looking at this image alone, you can see how wide Blender goes and how you can achieve realism in it. So let's get started. In the below panel, you can see there is an option to create a new file. Well, to be exact, there are 5 options for creating a new file. The first one is general, the second one is 2D animation, the third one is sculpting, the fourth one is VFX, and fifth one video editing. Now these are basic preset templates, if I can say so, which open up when you click them. So for example, we click 2D animation. We are opening in this preset where we can draw stuff, we can add keyframes and stuff. So if we do that, I just did that, we can see we have this. So it's a very wide range. So this is the general layout. We can see we have 2D animation, sculpting, VFX, and video editing. So this is the general. You can do pretty much everything in general. So now let's check out the layouts. On the right side of your screen, you have this panel. This is called the inspector panel. Now here contains all the objects in your scene. So currently we have 3 objects here and 2 collections. So the objects are camera. You can see this is the camera, the cube, and the light. These are elements that come in a default scene in Blender when you open Blender. So we can just change it up by, let's say, pressing G. We can move the cube. We'll get into that later, don't worry about it. Now if we go a little down, we can see this. This is the properties panel. You can see, you can just click on here and you can see all the panels. This is basically the properties. Now properties is the properties of your scene as it suggests. Now the first 5 panels here you can see, these are for the scenes, for scene properties, background, world, lighting, HDRs. That's, you can see we have render properties, we have output properties, we have view layer properties, we have scene properties, and we have world properties. Now these 7 panels, these are object property. So say I select this cube, you can see the orange line around it suggests I'm selecting it. And these all are panels you can use to modify that cube into something totally amazing. Now we're going to go through those panels as well, which is, the first one is object properties, second one is modifier properties, third one is particle properties, fourth one is physics properties, fifth one is object constraint properties, sixth one is object data properties, and seventh one is material property. You can see this is the object, we have the location, rotation, scale, we have modifiers. That's a lot of stuff we'll get into later. Now let's head on to the left. This whole area, this big area, call it the 3D viewport. So let's go through this as well. So you can see on the top right of this we have some buttons here which look very confusing, and they kind of are, so don't be worried about that right now. And below you can see we have the timeline. If I increase that just, so this is the timeline, you can drag through it. These are keyframes, the numbers you see, these are keyframes basically, and this is number of frames, these are number of frames, and this is the controller for playing the video. You can go to this, you can go to the last frame, you can go to the next frame, and there's a lot of stuff there. This is also a button to activate keyframes auto keying, it's called. We'll get into that later. We have some buttons here as well, and if you click on this, you can see this icon is the clock icon. It's right here, the timeline. This is called the timeline. Now you can see there are a little bit of buttons here as well. We're going to get into that. And then we have object mode. So we selected general, remember, so that general opens up in 3D viewport as a format. Now this 3D viewport consists of 6 modes. Now what do these modes do? They have different functions for different uses. Like we have object mode, so basic moving, basic scaling, basic rotating. We have edit mode, a little more advanced. We can select vertices, we can select edges, we can select specific corners, and this is basically a little more advanced. You can see we have modified the object in edit mode successfully. And that is edit mode. You can go to sculpt mode. Sculpt mode is a different story. It's extremely advanced. We'll get into that later. We have vertex paint, that is basically for texturing. These last three are mostly texturing, but we'll get into that. It's a little more complex than normal. And then we have these 4 buttons here. These, when you click, come out to a bunch of different options. Extremely simple. And then this is something you don't need to worry about. This would not show up in your window because this is an external add-on I installed in Blender. It is called the Blender Kit if you want. It allows you to get any materials, models, HDRIs right off the bat. You can just search and it'll be there. Then next we have a few buttons here. Now these are not complex. View object types. We have gizmos. We have show overlays, we have X-ray, we have some modes here. This is again modes. See, we have wireframe. This allows you to see through every object in the scene. This is solid without materials but with lighting. This is material preview. This is with textures without lighting. And this is rendered. This is basically a preview of what you'll get when you hit render. Next we have this little globe kind of thing here. So say you're on a trackpad. You can drag through and you can navigate around the workspace. Now I understand that when you're modeling, you need to go to tab, you need to click 2, you need to select stuff, and then who will go up there to move like 1 inch. I understand, and that's why I'm going to help you navigate around Blender right after we check out the workspace. Next we have these 4 buttons. This is zoom in. These are basically for the trackpad users. We have the move around, we have camera, you can shift to camera mode instantly, and then we have this grid. Go to orthographic view or perspective view instantly. You can switch between them. And that is the basic workspace layout of Blender. Congrats! Next, let's learn how to navigate around Blender. Your mouse may or may not have this middle mouse button. It is in the scroll wheel. Scroll, you can see we zoom in and out, and then if you click the button, if you click that scroll wheel and drag, you can see that we orbit around the object that is selected. Well, not exactly selected, but the one we are viewing at right now. So if I can just press Alt and then click with my middle mouse, I click there, you can see our view has gone to there. So now we are not orbiting around the cube, but orbiting around a specific point right about here. Now if I go to Alt and then click on this orange dot with the middle mouse button, you can see we are back to the normal view. Next, you can hold shift and then you can drag your middle mouse button to move around. Now don't confuse this with the orbiting. Orbiting is middle mouse button. This is shift and middle mouse button. This moves you around. Say you have an object right about there. How do you get to that? Hold shift and then middle mouse button. Go here, zoom in, and congrats, you are orbiting that object now. And if I just control Z that, we can go back. So you can see that happens. And that is navigating around Blender. There are a few more aspects to that, but we are going to get that in the next video. So thank you for clicking on this video. Stay happy and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.